You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Now moving on to, well, probably the biggest rivalry in cricket. You would agree, Nick and Gabe, and obviously you've just reacted to the Ashes. Of course, I'm talking about the Ashes. Of course, I'm talking about this little guy right here. The Ashes urn. This is what it's all about in Ashes cricket. So let's talk about the Ashes. Nick and Gabe, you reacted to the 05 Ashes series. You just finished that finally. It took a while. What were your thoughts from that amazing series? That's why you're sort of thinking, wow, now I know why people say that this is the best series that ever was in an Ashes series.
It's all about the passion. I mean, you said it yourself. It's not part of the WT, or maybe it is now part of the WTC. I'm not sure.
I guess
if
it
they
is.
made that official WTC eyes, but before that, it was that rivalry. I mean, no one else is invited. That's the thing that blew me away when I first learned about it. Like, no one. This is England and Australia going toe to toe. It's like a prize fight or something. And it's 5 matches. It's not a 3-match thing or a 2, or it's 5 matches. And I mean, when we were watching the test, you know, just the pride of just retaining the Ashes, right? Well, at least we retained it, for crying out loud. That was phenomenal to see. But I mean, it's back and forth. It's okay. You won the first match. I mean, it's incredible. And I don't know, you can tell me more about this. I don't get the sense that these two teams, the players, at least the current players, hate each other. But I know the rivalries, I know the fan bases, and it's probably more of a love-hate thing, but it's just, it's Yankees, Red Sox, you know? I mean, it's just these huge rivalries. It's Manchester and what's the other one? I can't think of it right now, the football club, but those are huge rivalries that are in sports, and it's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excited to experience our first one
that's
live.
what the Ashes is about. You know, as a kid growing up, you look forward to an Ashes series. You know, I've seen many series where Australia's lost in England, and up until 2019 we finally won, and I was like, you know, I'm glad I saw that, because the last one was in 2001 by Steve Waugh. Many great moments in Ashes cricket. And Nick and Gabe, the one documentary I would suggest that you should watch is called Forged in Fire. I've got a DVD on it. It's about the Ashes. It was made by Cricket Australia. They commissioned it by this guy. So I think you can get it on Amazon, I think. I'm not sure. But if you can access it, please watch that. You will learn more about the Ashes in that video, in that documentary.
I'll definitely check it out. I mean, for me, it was I tell you what, it was a great watch, and just the history of the game, the passion of the Ashes it's amazing. And it's on my bucket list. That's one of the things I'm going to do. And it's funny, you know, I've got a couple sporting events. I mean, I've already been to an NFL divisional championship. I got to see my Giants beat San Francisco the year they won the Super Bowl. And going to go to a baseball World Series. Still haven't done that. And going to go to the Ashes, man. Going to go to the Ashes. I'll plan my trip to England, because the wife wants to go around the year, you know, when the Ashes are going to be held at England or whatnot. And do it strategically that way. I'll do it strategically that way. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's in another 4 years. It's every 4 years, alternating between Australia and England. So the last series here was in 2017-18. So it's every 4 years. And it comes around so quickly. But going back to amazing moments in the Ashes, you've got amazing Adelaide 2006-7. Shane Warne's ball of the century in 93. Shane Warne's hat trick. I know you've reacted to that. His hat trick at the MCG in 94-95. You know, the Australian team in 1989 that started that great dynasty. They were called the worst side to tour England, and they won 4-0 out of 6. Because back then they played 6 test matches in the Ashes. 2 of them were washed off because of rain. They won 4-0. And then that started the dynasty up until 2005. Then you've got Headingley 1981 with Ian Botham, who smashed a century after England were asked to follow on. And he single-handedly got England back in the match. And Bob Willis, the late great Bob Willis, who's no longer with us, he got 8 wickets. He bowled like the wind. He got 8 wickets. You should check that out. Headingley 2019, the Test documentary. Ben Stokes, what an innings. Unbelievable. Steve Waugh, his last ball century at the SCG in 2002-3. His last ever Ashes Test. And Australia won that series, obviously. His last ball at the SCG, as I said. Steve Waugh's 100 at the Oval. He tore his calf. He batted on one leg in 2001. And there's a picture of him diving for a quick single to get the century. Look it up. And popping his helmet up. He's just on the ground. He lifts his bat up. That's Steve Waugh in a nutshell. He was a fighter. He was a stubborn cricketer, but that's what the Ashes is about. Shane Warne's 700th wicket at the MCG, his last ever Test. He announced his retirement in that Test match. Australia winning 5-0 in 2006-7 after losing the Ashes in 05. And 5-0 in 2013-14 by Australia at home. Not winning the Ashes from 2009 to win it. That was a special series, and I have great memories of that series. The Invincibles, 1948, Don Bradman. You talked about him in a cricket convo. Great man. Got a book about him. Great batsman. He led the 1948 Invincibles. Never lost the game in that series. They played all the counties, played the Ashes, never lost the game, and they won. The Ashes never lost the game. Great side. There's only one surviving member left. That's Neil Harvey. He's in his 90s. Everyone else is gone. But great series, great team. That's why they're called the Invincibles. And Peter Siddle's hat trick for Australia at the Gabba in 2010-11 on his birthday. I remember watching that. Gabe, you said watching a hat trick. Watching a hat trick's brilliant. In Edgbaston 2005, England winning that game. Adam Gilchrist, his 57 ball century, the second fastest in Test history at the time in 2006-7. React to that. That will blow your mind. He just went off, Gilly. He revolutionized wicketkeeping in that innings. So I've named it, and obviously James Anderson and Monty Panesar holding out for a draw in Cardiff in 2009. So I've just listed some great moments for you to check out because you can all watch them.
Definitely. I'll have to check out that Gilchrist. You said 57 on 24, right?
Well, it was 57 ball century he made.
Wow, I've said 57 ball century. That's impressive, man.
He at the time, Viv Richards had the record, fellow West Indian Gabe, and he nearly surpassed the record. But he just went off. He was out of form, Gilly. He got ducks, and he was really out of form. He was thinking about retiring, but then his wife said, "No, don't retire." So he came out in Perth, his home ground, well, his second home because he's from New South Wales, but he went over to play for Western Australia in Perth. So basically his adopted home. He smashed a 57 ball century. He just went bang and he just went off. It's just unbelievable, teed off. But, 71 Ashes series. Australia's won 33, England have won 32 since 1882. That is a long rivalry there in the Ashes. It's when I look at the urn and when I talk about the Ashes, you can see that history and tradition, honor that goes with it. For me, it's just cricket. And I think Nick and Gabe, by the time you come around to watching the Ashes in December, excuse me, you're going to feel that rivalry, that baggy green in the background there, Nick, and the English cap. Both players want to play the Ashes. That's what it's all about as an Australian and English cricketer. You just want to play in an Ashes series. Then you can retire and say, I've done it. I've achieved everything. But really, it's going to be a tough ask for England. They're up against it. Australia are favourites. But also, Nick and Gabe, there's a women's Ashes as well. Not just the men. There's a women's Ashes as well.
Correct.
Bet you didn't know about that.
I did not actually. Nick?
No.
Well, actually, the women's Ashes, it started back in 1934-5, and England won that first test in Brisbane. It wasn't at the Gabba. There's two grounds in Brisbane. There's the exhibition ground and the Gabba. Right, the Gabba didn't host a test match until 1931. So England won that test by 9 wickets. And since then, the women's Ashes has grown and grown, especially over the last few years. They do it on a points-based system. So they play all 3 formats, one test, ODIs and T20s. They're worth points. So whoever gets the most points after all that wins the Ashes. Now you're saying, do they play for the urn? No, they don't. That's for the men. They're creating their own tradition and history. They've actually burnt a set of stumps and bails. They put it in this wooden cricket ball, which is in the middle of the trophy. Go look up the trophy. It's a nice trophy to create their own history and tradition that goes with it. But the women's Ashes are happening in January, February. Check it out. Australia, dominant women's side. England, their women's team are going to be up against it. That's for sure. But, it's a great rivalry, the Ashes, both men and female. I look forward to it every 4 years. Nick and Gabe, obviously, coming into cricket, it's going to be, a great series to watch.
It's definitely exciting, man. It's kind of like the World Cup in soccer. You know what I mean? It comes around every 4 years, and it just it's an amazing thing.
Who do you think is going to win the Ashes? Let us know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe to Cricket for Americans, Boring Reviews, and The Final Reaction. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get the latest episodes of the podcast, and like and share our Facebook page, and follow us on Twitter. Until next time, keep safe, and bye for now.